everyone. I would like to begin by thanking the organizing and the scientific committee for bringing us together today, and thanking you who are here and after all this day still willing to listen, interact, ask questions, and share experience. So thank you. So standing here today is not easy. It's really challenging for me as a Lebanese psychologist to talk about our past while Lebanon is enduring another war is really not easy. Yet we know that to move forward, we must confront and heal the wounds of the past. So my PhD research focuses on the transmission of trauma from the Lebanese Civil War that occurred between 1975 and 1990. This? Okay. No. The green? No. This? Yeah. Yeah? Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I will edit slightly my presentation after what I heard in the morning today, but I will start with introduction, the learning outcomes from the qualitative studies that I conducted, the objective of this study, and for the discussion and interpretation, I will rely on the quotes and the statements of the participant. So I give you an idea about what it means to be a Lebanese 34 years after the end of the Lebanese Civil War. So, I'd like to start with a short video, but it might contain like some triggering images. So if you do mind that, just raise your hand and just we skip it. So, and of course, after the session, you can go to the hub or to all the services here in the conference for that.
سادت اللبنانيين في اللحظات التي فتح فيها نفق نهر الثلج الذي بقي مقفلا طوال 9 أشهر.
مش عم أحكي سياسي ولا عم جرب أشرح وضع الحالة بلبنان. باستشارة نفسية صبية عبرت عن خوفها من إنها تروح على مناطق معينة بلبنان مع إنه شغل أوقات بيفرض هالشي. بالرغم إنه ما عندها تجارب خاصة مربوطة بهالمناطق بس مجرد التفكير فيها بيخلق عندها توتر كتير. هالصبية خلقت بعد الحرب الأهلية وتأثرت فيها. صفحة الحرب الأهلية ما تسكرت بال1990. تأثيرها بعده موجود بيوميات هالصبية وكتار مثلها يلي ورثوا الحرب وصدماتها مثل ما ورثوا لون عيونهم، بشرتهم، ملامحهم، عاداتهم وكتير اشياء تانية. عم نحكي عن الصدمة العابرة للأجيال.
So technically, the Lebanese Civil War happened between 1975 and ended in 1990. Was one of the most devastating conflicts of the 20th century. Over 90,000 lives were lost, 20,000 were kidnapped or went missing, and nearly 2/3 of the population, about 1 million people, were displaced. The war's devastation was not limited to the physical landscape. It deeply scarred the emotional and social fabric of our society. And just to note here that now also we have more than 1,500,000 people displaced in Lebanon. And to understand the impact on the social fabric, I would like to share with you some statements and headlines from journals in Lebanon and from political interviews that happened in the last 4 years. And if anyone is following the news in Lebanon now, you might notice the same things. So Clashes at the old line of contact bring back memories of the Lebanese civil war, as mentioned in the France press on 14 October 2021. Increasingly evoked civil war, two words that come up more and more often in the mouths of foreign leaders and Lebanese officials. French President Emmanuel Macron, who was fully invested in the aftermath of the August 4 disaster to try to get the country out of its crisis, mentioned them on several occasions, as per the Middle East Eye. Paul Khalifa wrote it on the 17th October 2022. Some Christians fear sleeping at night in the mountain areas. This was declared by Minister Ghassan Atallah, Minister of the Displaced. Imagine we have a ministry for the displaced, and I'm not talking about the situation now. It was in 2019. A year after the October 17th revolution, I realized that it was impossible to change and that it would lead directly to civil war, wrote Ibrahim Bayram, journalist at An-Nahar newspaper. And believe me, now we have the same statement. So intergenerational trauma was very well defined in the morning. I will not repeat what all colleagues shared, so I will just try to. The mode of transmission for mainly families are the primary channel of transmission, with children absorbing their parents' story and images of trauma, which can leave lasting impressions as per many studies. Yet, trauma also spreads through communities, schools, media, and cultural narrative, shaping descendant experiences beyond the family. Research on intergenerational trauma, if it was qualitative, quantitative, or comparative, showed that there is a lot of impact on second generation. I will not go through it because also in the morning we had a lot of examples. Okay. Actually, what I want to mention is mainly most research on intergenerational trauma focuses on collective trauma like natural disaster, like invasion, like genocide, colonization. But research on civil war, where people from the same country turn against each other, is still like scarce and need a lot of development. And for the Lebanese civil war, for example, we have one study published in 2024 that tried to link the mental health of parents and see the impact of the mental health of children, but still we need a lot of research to be able to understand the impact of that. So as I mentioned before, it's a qualitative study. We relied on in-depth interview with second-generation descendant, focus group with parents, and also interviews with key informants. This can show you the demographic characteristic, and we try to cover as much as we can. So the data collection, of course, it followed the ethical process, and the data analysis followed Brown and Clark. The key findings. So we focused on two main themes: the mode of transmission of the Lebanese civil war and the impacts. For the mode of transmission, so trauma is passed from family silence to political narrative and social division. And in the impacts, we'll talk about the mental health, identity, and even career choice. To talk more about the transmission, I will rely on the statements of the participant to give you a clear idea about. So participants said that the Lebanese civil war never really ended because there was no reconciliation, justice, and accountability till now. This left many conflicts unresolved. Some former fighters are now in politics and keep these divisions alive. One participant from the next generation descendant stated that the battles have shifted from physical confrontations to political debates. The fact that we don't see weapons on the ground does not imply their absence. The war was eliminated from the school curriculum. So believe me, the history book in Lebanon, it ends in 1948. So after that, they are not being able to come together to write the history book. So they leave the second generation looking on themselves to have information to understand their history. The parties in power succeeded in creating a narrative, each one individually. It's very dangerous that it doesn't want generations to have a national outlook that unites them. They, mentioned second generation descendants, are the victims of the absence of an objective vision of what happened in the history of Lebanon, especially during the war, as one politician mentioned. We have also the ongoing political violence and instability, of course, and we experience a lot of discrimination because some post and some career, you cannot succeed and have an important post if you don't follow a certain political party or if you are not from a specific religion or sect. The transmission through parents, it can be directly, and it can be through silence and the fragmented narrative. So one of the second generation descendants mentioned during the war of 2006, my father shared the stories from the Civil War that helped me understand my family's fears. Overprotection also is one of the things that helps transmitting the trauma. And if we look to the statement from a parent, I strictly prohibited my children from engaging in political activities and demonstrations. And so on, we can see also the values of coexistence with sectarian biases and the physical and psychological scars on parents also echoes the war. So shock, pain, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a house or money, permeate the home in various ways, whether through the parents' words about what happened or through the silence, it's still picked up by the child, as a psychologist mentioned. I'm trying, this is really So other mode of transmission are the community members, so seminars, presentation, maybe at the university level, and all of that is a way of transmission, various media channel, and bear in mind that every political party in Lebanon has its own channel, so can spread the narrative that they want. The war remnants, and I would like to share this statement from a psychologist, the buildings still bear traces of bombing, and we are the children of places. The wall speaks to you. If the wall is wounded, you will ask, what wounded it? So for the impact, we have impacts on psychological well-being, on social identity, and on political identity as well, on the career choice. For the mental images, till now we have people talking about, and we shared today that even hearing about the trauma can create mental images, and it is expressed by many second-generation descendants, the heightened anxiety with desensitization. So, and whenever there is talk of war, I pack my bag, ready to leave. One second-generation descendant mentioned, bombings and assassinations became the norm, and we are desensitized at this point. So, the inclusive and unfavorable attitude. So, some of the second-generation descendants have friends from all sects and religions, and others no, they stayed in a different area and still not comfortable with this avoidance of certain area, and we talked about it, attachment with detachment, and here we are talking about Lebanon. And I had a discussion with Lama before, and I told her, one of the parents mentioned, we all love our country, but each one of us loves the country that he wants. The problem is that we don't have a unified perception of this country. So the impacts on political identity, so it is actually being redefined by second-generation descendants and it creates a desire to learn more about the Lebanese civil war. Okay, still have time. Impact on education and career choice. Also, it's something that we can see. One of second-generation descendants shared that my dad told me about the unique things we had in shop that all disappeared. Maybe that led to me studying archaeology. Another one told me that my friend's parents didn't allow them to go to university in Beirut because they wanted them to stay in their area. The only major available was economics, so you see half of the village studying economics. Another parent said, I asked my son to choose a high-paying career. That's why my children majored in computer science. Okay, I will skip this, the limitation and the recommendation for future research. Okay. Sure, we need more research. We need to include a more diverse sample of second-generation descendants, expand the participant base to include different regions across Lebanon, and in-depth interviews with parents instead of the focus group to permit to them to express more. But what is very important for me to talk about is recommendations for mental health professionals. Actually, I think we should include the assessment and the screening for intergenerational trauma in the initial assessment and in the clinical intervention in our private practice. To advance healing and reconciliation, I think it's very important to establish community-based programs and to create a comprehensive historical narrative. I'm not talking about a unified one, no, but it's placed for everyone to share their own story and to the other to listen to the story from another perspective. Implement trauma-informed interventions at school is very important, and they provide emotional and mental health support for individuals affected by past trauma. Of course, integrate psychological interventions tailored to address intergenerational trauma is very important. So I would like to end by this saying for Gibran Khalil Gibran. So out of suffering have emerged the strongest soul. The most massive characters are seared with scars. Maybe here we are talking about the negative impact of trauma, but it was mentioned several times in the morning that also we have what we call trauma growth. We are all here because we have something to do and we have something to say. So I want to highlight this concept and try to explain the resiliency that I see when I look to Lebanese people all around the world. I think this is what you learn when you grew up in a shaky country like ours. You try to ground yourself, to focus on what you can control and strive. Actually, the scars of the Lebanese civil war are testament to the resilience of those who endured it and their descendants. In Lebanon, we have a saying, تنذكر وما تنعاد. Let it be remembered, but never repeated. Actually, I would prefer to say, تنذكر تما تنعاد. So let it be remembered to not be repeated. These words remind me of the importance of facing our past, not to dwell on it, but to learn from it and ensure it doesn't happen again. I will take more few seconds actually to share with you a reflection that just I had when I heard a colleague talking about the protective factor and the social support. Actually, I will share a personal experience. I applied to the conference before that the situation escalated in this dramatic way in Lebanon. So after 1 week, I had a phone call from Dr. Masa to check on me and to offer support and to ask me if I'm still willing to join. So I told her if the airport is operating, I will be there, of course. I'm sharing with you that actually to highlight the importance of the social support, the importance of being all here together today. I think this is what Minata was able to create today with this conference. So joining efforts can definitely help us ease the pain in our region and all over the world, and foster the hope that Ms. Andari was talking about in the morning. So thank you, everyone.
Perfect.
One more thing, I have to finish like a few minutes before to give a place for
We can still take a question. You were the last one speaking.
I skipped a lot of slides, believe me, I was trying.
Thank you so much for that very insightful presentation. And I do have time for one question. Yes. We're going to get you a microphone. Just give me a second. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to have one question. How are you feeling now?
Before or after my presentation?
After your presentation.
So technically, I'm happy that I was able to do it. I'm happy that I was able to talk about it. Although I thought it would be challenging, honestly, to talk about this intergenerational trauma while all what it's come to my mind, it's what's happening now. If I would be able to return in 2 days or the road will be closed. So I think back to my idea of trying to focus on what we can control, it's helping too much now.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Thank you, Charlotte. And we couldn't have asked for a better final slide for today.
So
thank you all.
actually, these are my email.
Not so
in
final.
place.
This is the final one, but you know. Thank you, Charlotte.